Transferring videotapes to digital is so much harder than most people realize. Sure, you can get cheap devices on Amazon that claim to do a good job, but almost none do. And while older DVD recorder units can be pretty good, you'd still need to rip the DVD and scale it before you could properly share the file. People in the professional video world often use multi-$1,000 pieces of equipment to digitize and scale, and sometimes even they don't get it right. While there's no perfect solution for every scenario, using the RetroTINK 5x or 4K to digitize your analog media has the potential to be a really easy and cost-effective solution. And they include a feature almost no other capture device has: time-based correction. Let's walk through how to use them. I have to start with a bunch of disclaimers because I want to make sure I set your expectations properly. First, this video is not sponsored in any way. I'm going to use affiliate links wherever possible because that's the only way this channel can survive, but no one paid me to make this. If you don't believe me, just repeat the same tests I show in this video as proof that I'm always honest with you all. Next, by no means am I suggesting using a scaler is the only way you should digitize media. In fact, there's many different ways, ranging from cheap capture cards all the way up to solutions like Doomsday that pull raw data. This video is either for people who already own a RetroTINK 5x or 4K, or for people that want 1080p or 4K versions of their analog video as easy as possible in really high quality. In fact, I imagine many businesses that offer tape transfer as a service, or just people with tons of home videos that they want to share with family, would be interested in the RetroTINKs, even if you don't need a gaming scaler. Basically, if you've ever considered spending hundreds of dollars or more on a time-based corrector, getting a RetroTINK and a capture card might be a far more cost-effective solution, and this video will demonstrate why. Also, I keep mentioning the 5x and 4K, but wanted to address the 2x line of RetroTINKs. I still think they're awesome for classic gaming, but they were never designed with tape transfer in mind. You could still try using them for digitizing, but you'll get dropouts with VHS, and the deinterlacing isn't as good as the newer versions. Lastly, if you're doing archival work, direct lossless 480i capture might actually be a better option for you. I'll be releasing a deep dive video soon that goes into all of that, including pro-level stuff like the Doomsday Duplicator project. So if I gloss over any of those subjects here, expect them to be covered in detail in that video. Still feel free to ask questions or make suggestions in the comments, though. Even if you decide another capture method is going to be your main way of archiving your data, I still think this video is worth watching, as the only used equipment you need to buy is whatever your player is. And not having to wait for used equipment to appear on eBay is a big advantage. Heck, after watching this, I imagine many people using the Doomsday project might also want to use a RetroTINK, both to sync up audio and video and as a reference scaled file. But back on topic, let's get started with the basics. The only thing you'd need to connect your player to a RetroTINK is some decent cables. You don't need anything fancy, just make sure they're shielded. I'll use HD Retrovision cables for audio and composite video, and a shielded S-video cable that I've had for years. It really is as easy as just plugging it in, but there's a few things to note to get the best quality from each transfer. First, I'm assuming most people watching will be transferring VHS tapes, which were all encoded with Y and C separated. That means even if you recorded in composite video, if your VCR has an S-video output, use that. As a note, LaserDiscs are all encoded in composite video, so even if your player outputs S-video, still use composite. I'll explain this in detail later. I'll get into composite versus S-video on VHS in a different video, and it's totally fine to use composite video for home movies. Just note that the lower quality the player, the lower quality the transfer. Almost all other sources from magnetic tape media would be output in composite video. For the RT5X, just use the green port and back for composite video, as well as the audio ports next to it. If you're using a RetroTINK 4K, use the front inputs for both composite and S-video. There's nothing wrong with using the rear ports for composite or S-video, but the front ports go directly to the video chip, allowing the cleanest possible video transfer. On the flip side, video games would actually benefit from the rear S-video input's enhanced mode. However, that software mode is only designed for video games, not video content, so just stick with the fronts. Also, only connect either composite or S-video to the front ports of the RT4K, not both at the same time. It won't hurt anything if you do, but you'd risk reducing the quality of your transfer, so really, just plug in whichever signal you plan on using for the transfer. The only other thing to note, check the settings on your VCR, camcorder, or whatever and disable any on-screen stuff and video stabilization. Auto tracking is almost always a good thing to leave on, but video stabilization often produces negative effects with tape transfer. And the on-screen stuff is annoying, especially any blue screen. Imagine watching a transfer with a full blue screen popping up anytime there was a dropout or scene change. Basically, if possible, turn off every setting your device has except auto tracking. Okay, now that we're all connected, let's go over the settings that you'll need for each of your tinks. I'll start with the 4K, but if you're here for the 5X, just check the timestamps and skip ahead to that section. Before we begin, just make sure you've downloaded the latest firmware and video-focused custom output resolutions. The resolutions are as easy to install as dropping the two files linked in the description into the mode lines folder on the SD card, then overwriting. Obviously, back those up if you've already created your own on the SD card. Mike's constantly releasing firmware updates with new features, all completely free, so definitely download the latest and extract it to the root of the SD card. A lot of the features that are VHS specific were recently added, so definitely don't skip this part. Updating is as easy as going to the advanced settings in the menu, then OSD firmware, and hitting Check SD. Give it a second to detect the firmware. Then when this pops up, hit OK. After the update finishes, the tank should restart. Now open the Profile submenu and load the default settings. The RT4K is smart enough to retain previous settings after a firmware update, so this is an important step. Then back out and select your input. You'll want to make sure your source is connected and playing, otherwise the tank won't allow access to some of the analog-focused features. Just don't select the input with nothing connected. Then under the HDMI output section, choose your target. You could use the defaults if you'd like, 4K 60 for NTSC or 4K 50 for PAL, but I strongly recommend using the exact frame rate of your content. Home movies in North America would actually be 5994, so you could simply select that custom mode line I had you load, which now shows up towards the bottom. After selecting the resolution, scroll up and make sure triple buffer is selected. This is crucial for making sure time-based correction works properly. Now back out, go to Advanced Settings and SDP Decoder. The RetroTINK's main use is video game consoles, so IRE is set by default to 0. If your source is from North America, you should change it to 7.5 IRE, then set the contrast to 8. If you're capturing tapes from Japan, you could probably just leave the IRE alone, but you might still want to change the contrast. If your source still doesn't look right, you could try adjusting other picture levels here. It's really common for non-experts to get this wrong, though. The untrained eye often perceives brighter as better, but too bright actually ends up washing out the image. Feel free to mess with it, but unless you're an expert, adjust sparingly, and a bit too dim is better than a bit too bright. In a perfect world, each tape would have some kind of reference color bars or test patterns that you could use to calibrate it, but that's obviously not going to happen with home movies. Next, if you're using composite video, scroll down and set 3D Comb Enable to On. 3D Comb filtering won't affect S-video at all, as the chroma and luma are already separated, but it'll be a big help for composite. I'll show comb filter examples later. As a note, leave threshold at its default setting, but you'll want to reference this for IVTC stuff. More on that at the end of this video. Back out once more and go to Processing, Effects. I suggest changing both the horizontal and vertical interpolation to whatever looks right based on your source. Just avoid bilinear sharp, as that was designed for retro video games, and don't use bilinear soft, as you could lose detail even from VHS. Bilinear medium is probably not the best either, but Lanczos, cubic, or bilinear standard would most likely be the best. I just suggest previewing on a large TV before capturing, just to confirm with your own eyes what works better for your content. I'd also turn off linear light, although that probably won't matter. Just make sure to leave all scanline and mask emulation options off while capturing. Compression of any kind ruins these effects, and I'm sure the example I'm using right now probably looks terrible. These effects are amazing for watching older content, though. I'll do a whole other video in the future about CRT emulation on OLEDs, and I encourage you to experiment with these settings while watching content, but leave them all off while capturing. As a note, smoothing doesn't work for 480i content at all, at least at the moment. I wanted to at least mention it as Mike's constantly adding new features. Maybe someday this will be a great way to clean up old tapes, or maybe it'll be like scanline emulation where it's great for watching but not capturing. Either way, ignore it for now, but I'll leave a note in the description if this changes. If you back out, you'll see the color correction menu. This is really for advanced users only, but you could do things like change to the Japanese color standard 9300K as opposed to the North American 6500K. This would be handy if you're digitizing Japanese anime or something, but your average person should just leave this page alone. Then back out and go to deinterlacer film mode setup. Motion adaptive deinterlacing should already be selected, so just confirm that. I'd also suggest changing the interpolator from linear to edge adaptive for most content, especially home movies. Inverse Telecine is for 24 or 30p stuff. This is an advanced option that people converting home videos should just leave alone, but I'll add a quick section at the end of the video explaining it. Experts should definitely stick around for that one. Okay, back out one final time, go to Scaling, Cropping to Zoom, and use the top 4 controls to trim the image any way you'd like. With VHS transfer, there's almost surely noise on all sides of the image. Depending on the source, you might want to leave this for nostalgia or to get an accurate copy. Or maybe you'll want to trim each side until the noise is just gone. Also, you could even use this to zoom tapes that might be letterboxed on all sides. Just make sure to start with everything at 0 each time you have a new source. You don't want to forget and accidentally cut off your next transfer, so set it back to 0 now. Back out of that menu and go to the OSD firmware menu. Set hide input resolution to on so you won't have the OSD flash on during screen dropouts. Lastly, back out to the main menu, go to Profiles and hit Save as New. You could then rename it anything you'd like by simply renaming the file on the SD card. I like to add a date to my file names as well, so I'll know if it's current or not. I'll provide a file that has all of these changes pre-configured for North American sources, but you'll still need to change cropping and scaling algorithms every time you capture based on your source. So you'll definitely want to familiarize yourself with these settings and maybe even watch this section again before capturing yourself. That's it. Now you can just hit play on your content, then use your PC's capture card to record digitally. Let's walk through RetroTINK 5x settings next though. The RetroTINK 5x isn't as powerful as the 4K and doesn't have the same comb filtering, but it does have built-in time-based correction and good motion adaptive deinterlacing. I think it's a great way to get a 1080p transfer of your media, so let's walk through how it's done. Before you begin, make sure you're using the latest firmware. The TINK 5x has had some massive updates since its launch, with some awesome features added, and they're all completely free updates. I did a few other videos showing how to update the RT5x's firmware on both PC and Mac, so check out those if you need to. After your RT5x is on the latest firmware, start by opening the menu, selecting Load Profile, and Loading Defaults. It's always nice to start with a clean slate. Then back out and select either the composite or S-video inputs from the input menu. I'm using composite video, which is shared with the green component video port, which is why the video looked weird until I switched it over to composite. The TINK was trying to read it as YPBPR. Now select your output resolution. In almost all cases, you'll want 1080p fill, but if you have home movies with a ton of interference on the top and bottom, 1080p over might be better. Cropping might be a better option, so at first leave it at fill and back out to the scaling cropping menu. And you should be checking the scaling cropping menu every time you have a different source. Always back out both horizontal sides to make sure you're getting all of the image. Feel free to trim off noise or back out until you see black to get a full original archive. Once again, every source will most likely be different, so check it every time. Now back out, go to the horizontal sampling menu, and make sure generic 4x3 is selected. If it isn't, loading defaults probably didn't work, so you might want to go back and start over. Back out, enter the interpolation menu, and set this to soft. You may actually prefer different settings depending on the content, but soft is perfect to start with the RetroTINK 5x, especially for things like home movies. Now go to the deinterlacer menu. You'll want to make sure motion adaptive is selected unless you know for sure the source material is 24 or 30 frames per second. You won't have to worry about this for home movies, but experts should watch the whole video and check out the IVTC section at the end if you're interested in that. Anyway, then you'll most likely want to enable the motion adaptive smoother. I would definitely enable this for home movies, and I'd still give it a try and see how it looks for other sources. Next, make sure everything is off in the post-processing menu. These features are awesome for watching videos, but as you can see here, compression of any kind ruins the effect. Heck, even not viewing in the native resolution will ruin it, so it probably looks terrible right now. A perfect example of why to never use it for capture, only watching. Now back out and enter the SDTV decoder menu. The 5X's main use is video game consoles, so IRE is set to 0 by default. If your source is from North America, definitely change it to 7.5 IRE. Then set the brightness to 2 and the contrast to 9. If you're capturing tapes from Japan, you could probably just leave the IRE alone, but you might still want to change the brightness and contrast. If your source still doesn't look right, you could try adjusting the other picture levels here. It's really common for non-experts to get this wrong, though. The untrained eye often perceives brighter as better, but too bright actually ends up washing out the image. Feel free to mess with it, but unless you're an expert, adjust sparingly, and a bit too dim is better than a bit too bright. In a perfect world, each tape would have some reference color bars or test patterns, but that's not going to happen with home movies, so you're going to have to eyeball it, just do it sparingly. Then go to the HDMI output menu and make sure triple buffer is selected. It should be by default, but this is crucial for making sure the built-in time-based correction works properly. As a note, the TBC option you see here is for something completely different that I'm not even going to talk about in this video. For outputting to 1080p, you'll want triple buffer. Now go to the OSD menu and make sure blanking color is set to black. This is really important, as if there's any tape dropouts, you'd barely notice. If you forget to do this, the screen will flash blue every time it hits a bad part of the tape, which is very annoying, but setting it to black, it'll just look like a CRT. Lastly, save the profile and name it whatever you'd like. Now you'll never need to re-enter these settings manually again. Simply select this profile before capturing next time, then deal with cropping. You could even change between composite and S-video inputs. As long as you select the profile first, all of these changes will persist. Okay, now let's talk about recording. Now that you're all ready to record, you'll need to set up capturing on your PC. If you're just transferring home movies, it might be as easy as just using whatever software came with your capture card. Now, there's tons of capture cards that can handle this. However, I've been using the LiveGamer 4K for years with really good results. Check out a review I did if you're interested. Your software will definitely look different, but with my AverMedia LiveGamer 4K, I just checked to make sure it was recording at the exact resolution and refresh rate I was outputting, set the audio to the highest level, and set the bitrate to something that would be high enough that you wouldn't notice so much compression, but not so high that you end up with a giant file. If you'd like more control over settings, or don't trust the software that came with your card, like I usually don't, you could always use OBS or VirtualDub. I prefer VDub since you could really dig into the settings, but regardless of what you use, just take a moment to make sure the settings match what you're trying to do. 1080p, 4K, what refresh rate, etc. If you've watched previous RetroRGB capture videos, you might be surprised at how casual I'm being about this. Normally, capture settings require a lengthy deep dive and practically a degree to understand. The fact is that low-resolution video content just doesn't preserve the same amount of detail as video game footage. So if you're just looking for a great way to transfer your home videos, compressed HD captures are fine. Okay, so if you just came here for a guide on how to use your tinks to digitize your old media, you could feel free to drop off right here. However, I really hope you'll stay with me as I show proof as to why the tinks are such a good choice, as well as show some lossless comparisons and go over some tips that you might need for some more archival stuff. So hopefully you'll stay with me. Okay, on with the comparisons, and I'd like to start where we left off with compression settings. Here's a clip I shot with a VHS camcorder. On the left is a lossless 4K capture, and on the right is a 4K capture just using the basic settings of the LiveGamer 4K software. Even though this video was compressed during rendering, and once again when uploading to streaming services, meaning the lossless file was compressed twice and the lossy one 3 times, can you tell the difference at all? Also, note the file sizes. The lossless UT video capture is massive, and while the compressed H.264 version isn't exactly a small file, it's much more reasonable to save on your PC and upload. Now, there are scenarios where you might still want lossless captures. You'd most likely want lossless 480i, I'll get to that in a second, but in the context of this video, I think the most common scenario for lossless HD captures is content creators. Maybe you're only going to get a few short clips here and there, and just want to keep them lossless so there's no quality drop until your final export. If that's the case, I did a full deep dive video on lossless 4K captures, and you could use the same methods for basically any other resolution as well. You'd need a fast computer and a really fast SSD, but it's certainly an option. I think in most cases, if you need lossless, you'll want to get some pro equipment and get the original 480i capture, not HD. In the context of transferring home movies, you almost definitely don't want to do this. But what if you found some old media that was previously lost to the world? Or what if you found the only remaining footage of a past family member? Using the Doomsday Project or high-end direct 480i capture, or both, would probably be the best option, but how much of a difference would it actually make? Here's a recording using that same VHS camcorder. On the left is 480i lossless capture into a high-end Osprey video card, then deinterlaced and scaled via FFmpeg to 4K. Then on the right is the RetroTINK 4K, scaling that same source and recorded using the software that came with my capture card. In order to get the 480 file to look like that, I used a GUI front end for FFmpeg called Bravicon. No command line required, you just load the source file, set a target, then change whatever options to match what you're looking to do. As you saw in that comparison, it did a great job deinterlacing and scaling, but it took 3.5 minutes to convert a 30-second file. That's a lot of time. And time should be another major factor in what makes your decision as to how you digitize your tapes. If you're going direct to HD or 4K, then as soon as you're done capturing, you're done. You already have the file that you were going to throw on a USB stick or upload to your favorite video sharing service, and that's all the time it took. However, if you were going to 480i, you would then need to scale it if you cared even a little bit about the quality, and depending on what method you use, that could take hours or even days if you have tons of hours of footage. So sometimes that might absolutely be worth it, but is it for stuff like home movies where you're just trying to upload them to share with your family? That's going to be up to you to decide. So then how do the TINKs compare to non-pro solutions that also output high-definition files like they do? Here's a sub $100 box from Amazon. This one deinterlaces but doesn't scale past 480p. I wanted to show it as it's the perfect example of how most of these devices perform. It's so bad, it drops signal and loses AV sync in less than a minute's worth of footage from basically a brand new tape. Definitely stay away from stuff like this. Not all of those boxes are total crap though. Here's one that's about $140 and outputs 1080p. The wrong aspect ratio, by the way. I've been emailing the company asking for a firmware update to fix it, but anyway, this one's at least worth mentioning as it's one of the rare devices I've tested that includes some form of time-based correction. No comb filter, but it has an S-video input, so let's record a VHS tape that way. Here's how that box compares to the RetroTINK 5x, with both outputting 1080p. I used Premiere to fix the bad aspect ratio and scale them both to 4K, the resolution of this video. Notice the washed out colors, bad deinterlacing effects, and loss of detail. I'm not totally counting this one out though. If they fix the broken aspect ratio, I'd actually recommend it for people wanting the cheapest and easiest solution out there. I just wanted to make the point that there's a big difference between the TINKs and cheap solutions that you could easily spot, but the difference between full pro solutions and the TINKs are much smaller. While you can and should obsess over the differences for archival material, does the difference you see here matter for home movies? Can you see a difference? So look, I'm just trying to drive the point home that serious archival projects where every detail matters should be archived using pro equipment in their original 480i resolution, but the TINKs absolutely hold their own against most of those solutions. Okay, now let's get into why the RetroTINK 5X or 4K works so well with magnetic tape media like VHS. And the first thing to talk about is time-based correction, or TBC. These weren't necessary with analog equipment like CRTs, but they're always going to be necessary when going to digital. So here's a quick example, and I'll go into this in a lot more detail in the upcoming video, but let's just start with the basics. Here's a VHS of the movie Eurotrip playing on a CRT. Overall, it looks fine. Now I'm going to rub a magnet over this tape to purposely harm the data on there, out in my backyard far away from my CRTs, of course. This is a trick I shamefully stole from the Reasonably British channel. He's got great capture reviews as well. Now we'll play the same scene on that same setup. The first thing you'll notice is it's having a hard time with the calibration, which was fine before, but here come the dropouts caused by the magnet messing up the tape. If you're using analog devices like CRTs, there's nothing to worry about. The audio and video will stay in sync as they're recorded together on the tape, and the video will recover whenever the data is still there. Now I want to play that same tape through a capture solution that doesn't have a time-based corrector built into it. I'll start with a clip near the beginning of the movie. I say near because I was too lazy to rewind all the way to the beginning, but we'll only need a few minutes to prove my point anyway, so check this out.
Germany for a week, but I can get you both to London today for $118.
But here's just about 20 minutes later. The audio and video are so far off, it's completely unwatchable.
What happened to you?
I got robbed. It was awesome.
Then I recorded the entire movie both through the RetroTINK 5X and 4K, and I rewound all the way to the beginning this time. Here's at the start of the movie.
Next year you graduate, join me in college. See, it's just like we planned.
Scott, we need to talk.
Yeah? About what?
About me dumping you.
Huh?
Okay, that looks and sounds fine. However, this is a really damaged tape. So how do the RetroTINKs handle all of those dropouts? Let's go to the very end of the movie and find out.
Well, if that's what you want, I understand. Goodbye, sir.
Dad to catch you eventually, right?
No, they fired Humphrey.
Shut up.
Yeah, I got his office in a raise.
No.
Now that is a perfect example of time-based correction. Not only did the audio and video stay in sync throughout the whole movie, they did so through constant tape dropouts. Now let's check out the same exact scene I demoed on a CRT at the beginning of this section. Of course, a TBC isn't going to magically fix a damaged tape, but if it's working properly, it'll look and recover the same way a CRT would. And it does. I'm sure a pro-level TBC that's used in production studios might drop out a bit less, but when it comes to home tape transfer, this is really all you could ask for. And I included both the expensive Osprey card and cheap USB one as well, just to prove the point that even if you're using a great high-end capture card, you'd still need a TBC. A quick note, you might have noticed the ones with the TBC dropped out at different times. That's also normal. When a tape is this damaged, it'll always be a roll of the dice which sections are going to drop and recover. I did make sure the TINK's TBCs were off when running this test by setting it to frame lock mode, so this certainly wasn't caused by two TBCs in the same chain. If for some reason the TBC built into the TINKs isn't good enough for you, you could try hunting down used Pro TBCs on eBay and use that with any capture solution. Feel free to try any TBC you'd like, but just stay away from the cheap garbage you'll find on AliExpress and Amazon. I bought a few, and not only does the time-based correction not work at all, they often lower the picture quality. I think the fact that a TINK could be bought brand new with no time-based corrector needed might be what pushes a lot of people to buy one, even if they're not a gamer. Maybe its built-in TBC won't prevent as many dropouts as an expensive pro-level piece of hardware, but it'll keep your content in sync, which is the more important factor. Plus, let's be honest, most people just trying to digitize their tapes don't have time to go on eBay, wait for the proper equipment to become available at a good price, hope that it all works, and then jump through all the hoops required for proper 480i capture and then scaling. If the content you're looking to digitize is played via composite video, using a quality comb filter would be a really big help. I'll show some examples, but just a warning, if you're not watching this in this video's native resolution of 4K, whatever scaling that the streaming service you're watching this through is doing will probably ruin these comparisons. In fact, they probably would have ruined all of the previous examples as well, but these ones especially. Let's take a look. Here's a test pattern that demonstrates a common rainbow effect. On the left is basically no comb filter. In the middle is the RetroTINK 5X's 2D comb filter, and on the right is the RetroTINK 4K's 3D comb filter. Now let's add some more comparisons. Here's that $50 USB capture card, as well as a high-end Osprey capture card. The Osprey's filter is a bit better than the TINK 4K's, at least with the RT4K firmware currently released. Mike's always tweaking and updating, so this comparison might soon be outdated. I'll pin a comment and update the description with a link to a new comparison if there's any 3D comb improvements in the future. Still, as is, it's better than any 2D comb solution out there. Here's another comparison though. Check out the jaggies that are scrolling vertically up the image. This is commonly called dot crawl and also results in weird sharpening effects. In my opinion, this is far more distracting than the rainbow effect I just showed, and something you'd notice in more content. In fact, even a format as lossy as VHS would most likely see less dot crawl when using a 3D comb filter, even if it's only a small difference. Let's show this LaserDisc test once again, just because it's more in the context of this section. On the left is that LaserDisc player's S-video output using the player's built-in comb filter. In the middle is the player's composite video output to the TINK 5X, and on the right is composite video from the same player to the TINK 4K. As you can see, the 5X does a slightly better job than that fancy LaserDisc player's built-in comb filter, but it's close. If nothing else, it's proof the 5X's comb filter is no slouch, and while the RetroTINK 4K's 3D comb filter has some room for improvement, it's still excellent and a big help for composite video content. I think an important thing to note is how few devices come with a 3D comb filter these days. Sure, you might be able to find used equipment, but that expensive Osprey capture card is the only capture card I'm aware of that's still being sold new with a 3D comb filter built in. This last section is geared more towards experts and definitely not for home video transfer, but I think most people watching would be interested because either RetroTINK has an inverse telecine function that could deinterlace any content that was originally 24 or 30 frames per second back to its original progressive scan format. So technically it wouldn't even be deinterlacing, it would just be inverse telecine back to its original. Now, this is actually something that's fairly complicated, and I'm going to be showing examples of when it doesn't work, because I think that's actually going to be more helpful to you than just showing an example of when it does. You'll see what I mean in a second. Let's jump in. Let's begin with the RetroTINK 5X. Start playing your source and make sure it's part of the main content, not ads or warnings or something. Then enter the deinterlacer menu and select IVTC 3.2 for 24p or IVTC 2.2 for 30p. You'll see the IVTC status scan the signal, and if it detects the setting you've chosen, it'll lock on. You'll need to verify this with your own eyes though. See those combing artifacts? That means IVTC isn't going to work for that source, even if it says it's locked on. This isn't just a TINK issue though. I also had a similar problem using that Osprey card's IVTC feature. And heck, I even had combing artifacts when I ripped the same DVD digitally using MakeMKV, then using software to run IVTC. I'm pretty sure the reason for this is all of the shots that were filmed on set were 23:9:7 or 24p shot on film, and then it was transferred digitally with 3.2 pull down applied to 59:9:4 480i, and then the effects and overlays and stuff like that were added on top of it, essentially being a mix of 480i and 24p content. And this gets even worse because there's some LaserDiscs that were originally applied with a 2.2 cadence and then had it switched over to whatever 480i format that you're seeing. So this is going to be something that you might not ever be able to do in post, regardless of it's with a RetroTINK or in software, which is why I wanted to show the example of what to expect when it goes wrong so you could spot the combing artifacts and know that whatever content you're trying to inverse telecine probably isn't going to work due to a mix of formats or a bunch of other things that could go wrong. By the way, a massive shout out to Fudo for trying to explain this stuff to me, because there's no way I would have been able to really grasp it without his help. But let's continue. Since we're talking about exact frame rates, now is the time to mention that using this VHS mode for the RetroTINK 5X will still result in a 60 Hz output unless you set the HDMI output to frame lock mode for 59:9:4. Do not do that for magnetic tape media like VHS, or you'll lose the time-based correction functionality, but it should work with LaserDisc. Regardless if you're outputting in 5994 or 60 frames per second, the RetroTINK 5X is still going to have to apply a 3.2 pull down, as it's not able to output 24 frames per second at all. However, most importantly, and the entire point of this section, if your content is compatible with inverse telecine, you'll still end up with a perfect deinterlace and no combing artifacts at all. The RetroTINK 4K also offers IVTC with some even more precise output options as well. Start the same as before with your main content playing. Remember that if you're capturing a LaserDisc, first go to the SDP decoder menu and set the 3D comb filter's noise threshold from default to low. This should be fine set to default for all other media. Then back out and enter the deinterlacer film mode screen. Scroll down to film mode and enable either 3.2 or 2.2. If detected, it'll do the same as the RT5X and reverse the interlaced video back to its original progressive format. But once again, if you see those combing artifacts, it probably means the content can't be reversed to its original state, either due to a mix of formats or some other issue with the transfer. If it is working, you could take this process one step further and enable dejudder 24 Hz. This will not only perform a perfect deinterlace like I described before, but it will keep the frame rate at its original speed. After enabling dejudder, you might see the video stutter in your preview window, as you'll also need to set the output frame rate to match. In this case, you'd back out to the HDMI menu and set the second 4K 2397 mode line I had you load at the beginning of this video. As a note, PAL users will have to make their own custom mode lines, as I just don't have any way to test and verify PAL sources. I'll leave a link to an awesome website that'll help you create basically any custom output that you'd like, so check that out for 30p stuff. I'd also just remind you that you'd need to set your capture card to match as well. My AverMedia software shows right here in the status that it's seeing the signal properly as 2397, so that means the TINK 4K is outputting correctly, but it looks like this card doesn't have a 2397 option, only 24. It seems like this is a limitation of the LiveCamera 4K hardware itself, as there's no 2397 option in Virtual Dub either. It wouldn't be terrible to record in 24p, but you'll get some occasional stutter. So if 2397 is important to you, look for a capture card that can handle that exact frame rate. So hopefully now you'll understand why I wanted to show a bad example in this section. Showing a converted 24p file that's being played in 60p with 3.2 pull down in this video is absolutely useless because it's just going to look the same. But giving you examples of what to look out for and when, I think might be a big help for people who are trying to use the IVTC feature but aren't sure if their content is able to be converted or not. So in conclusion, a RetroTINK 5X or 4K might be an awesome way for you to digitize your old 480i media, simply because it has built-in time-based correction as well as very good comb filtering. Now, even if you're not a gamer, that alone might be enough reason for you to buy one, as well as the fact that it spits out the file in the resolution that you're probably looking to go to anyway. And I imagine tape transfer services would save a lot of money, as well as a lot of time, using one of these as opposed to direct capture then scale solutions. But as I've said many times in this video already, the TINKs aren't going to be the perfect solution for every single transfer scenario. Some of the direct solutions might be a better choice for pro-level archiving, but you still might want to try integrating a TINK into the setup, either as a secondary capture or even to test scale footage you've already captured at 480i. I'll follow up as soon as I can with that deep dive video, and I'll also be highlighting used equipment that you might be able to find pretty cheap, like direct capture equipment or even older video processors that used to be expensive but are fairly cheap if you could find them these days. You'll still need to deal with finding a decent time-based corrector though. Anyway, if you liked this video, please consider subscribing to the channel, and there's plenty of ways to support even more, including ones that are completely free. Clicking on the RetroRGB support page and scrolling down will bring you to affiliate links that let you buy stuff from Amazon at the exact same price, but we get a small cut. Just click that link before going to your cart to help us out. If you're not super into this stuff, but feel generous, maybe leave a tip directly through PayPal or Ko-fi. Even the smallest tip is appreciated, and links are on that same page. And if you rely on info like this, please consider signing up for monthly support services like Patreon and Floatplane. We recently turned off all ads on RetroRGB.com to make the experience better, but there's no way we could have afforded that without amazing monthly supporters. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.